Victoria was visiting the local museum's new exhibition. The exhibition featured antique costumes worn by famous dancers throughout history. Victoria, with her interest in dance, was exploring the exhibition with great excitement. However, one particular costume in the corner of the exhibition was different from the others. With its sparkling gems and peculiar patterns, this costume outshone the rest. Victoria stopped in front of the costume and examined it carefully. She felt an instinctive attraction and wanted to get a closer look at the costume. The museum attendant approached Victoria and said, "This costume is truly a special piece. It was worn by a famous dancer in the 19th century. However, the mystery surrounding this costume has never been solved." Victoria wanted to uncover the mystery of the costume and briefly imagined herself wearing it. As this thought crossed her mind, she suddenly felt that the costume had a magnetic pull. Before even putting it on, she sensed that something within the costume had awakened. When she found herself inside the costume, she experienced a momentary panic. Her body was no longer under her control. The costume was compelling her to dance. Victoria desperately tried to regain control, but the enchantment of the costume overwhelmed her. She began to dance in the middle of the museum. Her movements were terrifyingly fast and uncontrollable. Onlookers watched in fear as Victoria's dance became increasingly deadly. The costume was manipulating her as if she were a puppet. Victoria's face had turned pale, her eyes blinked rapidly, and she was drenched in sweat under the curse of the costume. She began to feel a kind of pain and anguish within the dance. However, breaking free from the costume's control seemed impossible. Suddenly, the pace of the dance accelerated, and Victoria's steps became even deadlier before the eyes of the onlookers. One person under the curse of the costume was being forced into a deadly dance. Victoria found herself completely out of control. As she danced under the costume's curse, the rhythm of the dance was accelerating, and Victoria's body was moving at a pace almost foreign to her. Her eyes were bloodshot, and her body was drenched in sweat. Museum staff and other visitors watched in helpless horror. As Victoria's ordeal unfolded, no one knew how to help her under the curse of the costume. The dance had become an endless nightmare. However, one spectator realized that something was amiss. This person, eager to learn more about the costume's mystery, read the information card displayed with the costume. The card revealed that the famous dancer who owned the costume had tragically lost her life, and the curse had begun at the end of her dance. Based on this information, the spectator contemplated how to break the costume's curse. By observing Victoria's dance, this individual tried to decipher the rhythm of the dance. The dance's rhythm resembled a kind of code, and the only way to break the curse seemed to be by accurately imitating the dance. The spectator started to decipher the rhythm of the dance, and slowly began to mimic Victoria's dance. This was the last hope to break the costume's curse. As the rhythm of the dance was accurately replicated, it appeared that the costume's control was diminishing. Eventually, the spectator had completely deciphered the rhythm of the dance, and Victoria's body began to slow down gradually. It seemed like the curse of the costume had been broken. As Victoria regained her strength, she was supported by the spectator. However, the curse of the costume had not completely vanished. There was still something inside the costume, and more information was needed to understand the origins of this mysterious costume. Victoria and the spectator decided to work together to unravel the secrets of this cursed costume. Victoria and the spectator began working together to uncover the mysteries of the cursed dance costume. The mystery and curse of the costume remained unsolved, and they were determined to do their best to better understand it. First, they conducted further research into the life and tragic death of the famous dancer who owned the costume. Their research indicated that the dancer had died suddenly after wearing the costume for a performance, and there seemed to be a curse behind this death. However, how the curse came to be and what was hidden inside the costume still remained a mystery. By delving deep into the museum's archives, they unearthed more information about the history of the costume. It was revealed that the costume had been designed and worn by a dancer who had once been one of the biggest stars on the stage. After the dancer's death, it seemed like the costume had been possessed by a curse. The spectator wanted to understand the energy and origins carried by the costume in order to unravel the curse, just as they had deciphered the curse. By following the rhythm of the costume, they now sought to understand the energy within the costume. Both steps were crucial to unraveling the secrets of the costume. One day, The Spectator and Victoria collaborated with several researchers and mediums to gain more insights into the origins of the costume. The mediums began to sense the energy within the costume and stated that the spirit of the dancer was still connected to the costume. In the end, they managed to uncover more information about the origins of the costume and the curse. However, there was still more work to be done to completely cleanse the costume and bring peace to the spirit of the dancer. Battling the curse of the costume remained a top priority for them. Victoria and the Spectator continued their quest to unravel the secrets of the cursed dance costume. They had learned about the origins of the costume and the continued connection between the dancer's spirit and the costume. But further efforts were needed to completely remove the curse. A group of occult experts and mediums came to the museum to examine the costume's energy and curse. The assembly began to investigate how to release the malevolent energy within the costume and the spirit that still seemed trapped within. After hours of rituals and meditations, they came to understand why the dancer's spirit was linked to the costume. The dancer had worn the costume with great passion and dedication before her death. This passion and dedication had led to the merging of her spirit with the costume. However, the dancer's spirit needed to find peace now. Experts attempted to release the dancer's spirit through a series of special rituals, despite their efforts to calm the energy within the costume and set the spirit free. Things did not go as planned. At the conclusion of the rituals, the energy within the costume and the spirit of the dancer appeared even more enraged and uncontrollable. The costume began to cause even more chaos within the museum, creating an unsafe environment for people. Victoria and the Spectator remained determined to regain control of the cursed dance costume and bring peace to the spirit of the dancer. However, the curse of the costume and the angry energy within it would lead them into an even more perilous journey. Breaking the curse and setting the spirit free would require one final effort. But at what cost? Victoria and the Spectator continued their efforts to seize control of the cursed dance costume and bring solace to the dancer's spirit. However, the angry energy within the costume and the spirit still trapped within it were growing stronger with each passing day. The chaos within the museum had become uncontrollable. Visitors and staff were exhibiting bizarre behaviors under the influence of the costume's curse. The costume seemed to be seizing people's souls, and this situation was becoming increasingly dangerous. Victoria and the Spectator decided on one last attempt to break the curse of the costume. With the assistance of experts and mediums, they tried to calm the energy within the costume and release the dancer's spirit. However, this time, the rituals had become more complex and hazardous. The angry energy within the costume appeared to be resisting the rituals. Victoria and the Spectator struggled against the costume's energy, but this battle was growing increasingly fierce. Their determination to break the curse of the costume surged once more. Eventually, they reached some sort of equilibrium. By correctly performing the rituals and releasing the dancer's spirit, the energy within the costume began to calm down. The costume ceased to seize people's souls, and peace was restored in the museum. The spirit of the dancer was set free from within the costume and found peace. Now, the dangerous power of the cursed dance costume was under control. Victoria, the Spectator, and the other experts decided to securely store the costume so that no one could be affected by the curse again. However, the curse of the costume and the power within it still held its mysteries. This experience became an unforgettable, fear-filled adventure for Victoria and the Spectator, leaving them with a secret they would never forget. After putting in great effort to unravel and control the secret of the cursed dance costume, Victoria and the Spectator finally succeeded. The curse of the costume had ended by releasing the spirit of the dancer, yet the legacy it left behind after this terrifying adventure was unforgettable. The power and curse of the costume had left many unanswered questions. Victoria and the Spectator were relentless in their pursuit of this dark secret, and decided to learn more about the origins of the costume. They began researching the history of the costume and attempted to access ancient documents and sources. During their research, they discovered that the costume had been designed and worn by a dancer who had once been one of the biggest stars in the performing arts. The dancer's death marked the beginning of the costume's curse. However, the dancer's passion and dedication had fueled the negative energy within the costume. As they learned more about the history of the costume, Victoria and the spectator began to understand the true purpose behind the release of the dancer's spirit. When the dancer's spirit was freed from the curse of the costume, it finally found peace. However, the curse of the costume and the power within it remained dangerous. Victoria and the spectator safely stored the costume, preventing it from falling into the wrong hands. The secrets of this cursed costume continued to haunt them as a legacy, but they were determined to unravel these mysteries. The secrets and curse of the costume became a lifelong, fear-filled subject of research for Victoria and the spectator. This dark legacy would continue to impact the rest of their lives and require them to resist the power of the costume. Nevertheless, they were determined to shed light on these secrets and put an end to the costume's curse once and for all.